August 1944. The Allied breakthrough at Normandy has shattered German defenses across France. General George Patton's Third Army is racing eastward at speeds no military planner thought possible, advancing 30, 40, sometimes 50 miles per day. But there's a problem no one anticipated. The armies are outrunning their supply lines. Every Sherman tank burns 5 gallons of fuel per mile. Every infantry division needs 650 tons of supplies daily: ammunition, rations, medical equipment, spare parts. At the Supreme Headquarters, the logistics officers are looking at numbers that don't add up. Patton's tanks are literally running dry. The Third Army has advanced so rapidly that trucks can't keep pace. In 1 week alone, forward units report being down to 3 days of ammunition. Some tank battalions are completely immobilized, not from enemy action, but from empty fuel tanks. The room erupts when Colonel Frank Ross, Chief of Transportation, briefs General Eisenhower on August 21st. "We're losing 23% of supplies before they reach the front," Ross reports. Truck accidents, German air attacks, vehicles breaking down mid-convoy. If Patton stops moving, the Germans will reinforce. If he keeps moving without supplies, his army will collapse. Eisenhower stares at the map. The window to end the war by Christmas is closing. How long to fix this? Weeks, maybe months. We'd need to completely redesign the convoy system, establish proper maintenance depots, but they don't have weeks. Eisenhower's finger traces the red line marking the German border. The Wehrmacht is retreating now. Give them time to regroup, and they'll be fighting through the Siegfried Line in winter. I need solutions in days, gentlemen, not months. The meeting adjourns with no answers. Meanwhile, 90 miles away, Technical Sergeant Raymond Kowalski sits in the cab of his GMC Jimmy truck, staring at the wreckage of another convoy. 8 trucks overturned and burned, supplies scattered across the roadside. A Luftwaffe strafing run caught them bunched together on a narrow road, sitting ducks. Kowalski, 34, a long-haul trucker from Pittsburgh before the war. No college degree, no military pedigree. Just 15 years hauling steel through Pennsylvania's mountain roads. Watches good men die because nobody in command understands trucking. He lights a cigarette, remembering something his old dispatcher used to say. Convoys are for show. Profits are in the spacing. Before we continue, if you're fascinated by untold innovations that changed history, hit subscribe and drop a like on this video for more amazing World War II stories every day. The Red Ball Express. Official convoy doctrine. 20-plus trucks, 60 yards apart, 25 miles per hour max. Safety in numbers. But Kowalski has seen 6 convoys in 2 weeks, every one taking casualties. The problem isn't just German air attacks, it's the convoy itself. 20 trucks bunched on a rural road create a target visible for miles. When aircraft appear, the entire convoy stops, trapped. Yet he notices something else. When a few impatient drivers leave alone once loaded, those trucks always arrive safely. The convoy? It loses 3 trucks that day. Independent trucks, spread out over hours, are nearly impossible to target. Even if one truck is spotted, it's not worth the fuel to hit it. But a convoy? That's a prize. The math is brutal. Convoys suffer 23% losses. Independents, under 3%. The proposal. August 25th. Kowalski brings his notebook to Captain Dennis Hayes. "Sir, I think I know how to cut our supply losses by 90%. Hayes looks him over, dusty coveralls, oil-stained hands, and delivers a line that will echo through logistics history. "Kowalski, you're a goddamn truck driver. Leave the tactics to people who went to West Point." His proposal goes up the chain with a dismissive note. Battalion HQ denies it immediately. Individual vehicle operations eliminate mutual support and violate tactical protocol. Kowalski laughs bitterly. He's been driving trucks longer than these officers have been alive, and they're lecturing him on vehicle operations. But he doesn't give up. On August 27th, he approaches Lieutenant Colonel Martin Burgess.
April 17th, 1943, Maknassi Pass, Tunisia. War isn't quiet. War doesn't wait. And today, war just got humiliated by a 2,000-pound scrap of American steel. The Africa Corps moved through the desert like ghosts, silent, low, disciplined. These were Germany's finest, the men who brought Europe to its knees. But today, they were about to get absolutely violated by something that shouldn't exist. Not a tank, not a bomber, not some secret Allied weapon forged in a lab. No, a Jeep. Picture this. You're crouched behind a rock, rifle ready, sweat burning into your eyes. You trained your whole life for honor, strategy, precision, and suddenly you hear it. Not a Panzer engine, not a British Matilda tank, a purring, smug little engine that sounds like it's laughing at you. Then it appears, bouncing across the desert like it owns the place. No armor, no roof, no fear, just a dirty green shoebox with wheels, and it's faster than anything you've ever seen. You think, what idiot would go to war in that? Until your squad gets outflanked in 14 seconds by 6 of them, swarming your position like mechanical hyenas. Fast, ruthless, surgical. No mercy, no hesitation. They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like wolves. Browning machine gun swinging, engine screaming, sand exploding. Your men don't even have time to shout before they're pinned and surrounded. There is no German word for what just happened, but there's an American one: domination. And right there, in the dust, in the heat, in the total humiliation, Germany learned something terrifying. This Jeep wasn't a vehicle. It was a goddamn problem. A problem so big, so embarrassing, so unstoppable, that Hitler himself put a bounty on it.
April 17th, 1943, 1740 hours, somewhere outside Maknassi Pass. The Americans didn't waste time with speeches. They didn't bark insults. They didn't parade their victory. They disarmed the Germans faster than a factory assembly line strips scrap metal. Clean, efficient, emotionless. Carl Weber watched them work and realized something unsettling. These weren't the clumsy, lazy Americans German propaganda talked about. These men moved like they had done this 1,000 times. April 17th, 1943, 1740 hours, somewhere outside Maknassi Pass. The Americans didn't waste time with speeches. They didn't bark insults. They didn't parade their victory. They disarmed the Germans faster than a factory assembly line strips scrap metal. Clean, efficient, emotionless. Carl Weber watched them work and realized something unsettling. These weren't the clumsy, lazy Americans German propaganda talked about. These men moved like they had done this 1,000 times. A Jeep skidded to a stop in front of Carl. The driver hopped out, helmet low, sleeves rolled, a strip of chewing gum in his teeth, like he had zero respect for the desert or the war. He looked maybe 20 years old, just a kid. He tossed a cigarette to one of his buddies and said, "Bag 'em, tag 'em, move 'em." That was it. No ideology, no hate, just work. War to them was industrial. Carl's squad was lined up and searched, dog tags taken, rifles tossed onto a growing pile of captured weapons. A U.S. officer with a clipboard walked past, barely looking at them as he spoke. 10 prisoners, no wounded. Push him to transport. They were no longer soldiers. They were inventory. But Carl wasn't looking at the Americans anymore. He was staring at the jeep. 2 of them idled in front of him, engines running smooth as sewing machines. The desert had killed half the German vehicles in the region. Sand clogged air filters, heat destroyed radiators, gearboxes died from dust. But these things looked like they didn't even notice the desert existed. One of the jeeps had a bullet hole through its hood. Another had dents all over the body. One wheel was clearly bent. And yet, they still ran. Impossible, Carl thought. Then he saw something that made his stomach tighten. A metal toolbox was strapped to the side of the jeep. Just a few wrenches, pliers, a screwdriver, a hunting knife. That's not a military repair kit, Carl muttered under his breath. That's a farmer's kit. He stepped closer without thinking. A U.S. guard shoved him back. "Keep walking, Fritz." Carl didn't move. He pointed at the jeep and said in rough English, How does it run like this?" The American shrugged as he slung his Garand rifle over his shoulder. "Runs 'cause it's supposed to." "What do you mean?" The American smirked. "It ain't complicated. Fix what breaks. Don't overthink it." He climbed into the jeep, tapped the dashboard twice, and drove off like a man.
December 18th, 1943. Belarus, near Vitebsk. A forest so quiet it feels like the world is holding its breath. Snow falls in slow, whispered flakes. The trees stand like mute sentries. Birch and pine, black ribs against a white sky. Breath fogs in the air, drifting upward like ghosts from the mouths of tired men. 14 Soviet partisans move in a thin file, spaced tight, each step deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch. No talking, no coughing, no metal clinking. Every breath stings, winter biting deep into lungs and fingers. They are hunters in enemy country, or so they think. The whisper of boots on snow, a faint rattle of grenades on belts, steam curling off wool caps, a Red Star armband half hidden beneath a torn greatcoat. Their weapons are mismatched. PPSH-41s, captured Kar 98Ks, one battered DP-28 wrapped in cloth to hide its silhouette. Real soldiers, but ghosts to their own army now, operating behind German lines, living off frost and daring. At the front, Lieutenant Alexei Chernov, 25, cheeks hollow from hunger, eyes sharp despite fatigue. Behind him, his second, Sergeant Mikhail Voronov, 32, broad shoulders, weather-creased face, eyes like winter steel, a hunter before the war, a man who moves through the trees like he was born in them. The mission is simple on paper. Cut the German supply artery feeding Vitebsk. In reality, nothing is simple here. The air tastes like danger. The silence feels wrong. Then, it hits you. A sound too faint for a novice to notice, but unmistakable to men who felt death brush past. A metallic click hidden in the wind. A distant breath. A branch releasing snow, not by nature, but by weight shifting beside it. If you're new here and you want real, immersive World War II stories that put you in the cockpit, in the trenches, and behind enemy lines, subscribe now. Most people scroll past history, but you're here to experience it.
So hit subscribe and like the video. The mission's only just begun.
You don't see men, but you feel eyes. The lieutenant stops, fist in the air. The line freezes mid-step. A raven croaks in the distance, harsh, mocking. Snow hangs in the air. Voronov slowly turns his head and sees it. A tripwire half buried under light powder. Mines, a line just ahead like hungry teeth waiting for boots. And deeper in the tree line, barely visible, the faintest flickers of cloth, rifle barrels tucked in snow, a shape like a helmet curve vanishing behind bark. MG-42 kill zone. Multiple positions, interlocking arcs, perfect, clinical, German. And they haven't fired. That's the worst part. The Germans are waiting, patient, disciplined, letting the platoon walk deeper, letting the trap close, letting the kill distance shrink so not one man survives when metal hell erupts. The realization spreads down the line like ice water. No one breathes. No birds chirp. Not even the forest dares move. One wrong twitch, and 30 rounds a second will tear this clearing open like paper. Lieutenant Chernov's lips move soundlessly. Ambush. His eyes search desperately. They can't charge, miles ahead. They can't retreat. The rear path is covered, shapes in the snow behind them too. They're boxed, cut, butchered already, just not yet dead. Someone at the back whimpers. A young partisan clutches his PPSH so tight his knuckles blanch white under frostbitten skin. A man murmurs a prayer in Ukrainian under his breath. Another kisses a locket through his gloves. You can feel hearts pounding. Loud enough it feels like the Germans must hear it too. Everything slows. Breaths stretch. Air crystallizes. Time is a trapped animal trying to flee. Then, Voronov moves. No panic, no trembling. Just a long exhale, as if he'd been expecting this moment his whole life. His gaze sweeps the kill zone, calculating every angle like he's studying a deer trail, except the predators now are steel-eyed men behind machine guns. He leans toward the lieutenant. No fear, only resolve forged by too many funerals. A whisper, steady as a winter river. They're waiting to confirm targets. One man draws fire, the rest move. Chernov's face goes pale. He shakes his head violently, eyes wide, breath breaking. Voronov gives him a quiet, heavy half-smile, the kind only men who have already made peace with death can manage. Let me walk first. He pulls a strip of torn cloth from his pocket, white from a peasant's shirt, ties it around his rifle, a makeshift flag of surrender. Men stare, horror, disbelief, awe, mixing in their eyes. One mutters, voice cracking, "Seriosa, don't." Another clutches his sleeve like a drowning man reaching for a branch. Voronov gently pries the hand off. Someone has to. He steps forward. Snow crunches under his boot, louder than gunfire in this moment. He raises his rifle above his head, hands open, a prisoner to be, a fool, a dead man walking. Step, step, step. The forest watches. German helmets shift in the tree line, surprised, confused. Their fingers hover on triggers, not yet closing. They want prisoners. They want interrogation. 20 meters. Air trembles. 30 meters. His breath fogs like smoke from a burning soul. Then, a twitch of his hand, a pin pulled silently. He drops low, arm whipping forward, smoke grenade arcing, spitting sparks, hissing white fury. He dives sideways, coat flaring, and the world erupts. MG-42s scream, trees explode, snow vaporizes. His body turns into a blur of motion, zigzagging, rolling, firing bursts that are more defiance than aim. The trap snaps shut, but on its own teeth. Behind him, bodies rise, weapons ready. Lieutenant Chernoff roars through the chaos. Go! Flank left. The forest goes from dead silence to roaring hellfire. The first burst of German fire hits the trees like a saw blade of lightning, ripping bark, spitting splinters, shaking snow loose in violent white clouds. The forest, moments ago a frozen chapel, becomes a grinding throat of steel and thunder. Voronov is already moving, not running like a soldier, but like a hunted animal that knows the forest's heartbeat. Snow kicks up behind him, bullets scythe past so close they tug threads from his coat. A round snaps through his sleeve, burning flesh, but he does not slow. The smoke grenade blossoms, a dirty, choking gray cloud that swallows the clearing. For one precious heartbeat, the Germans lose their sight. Then, instinct takes over. The platoon explodes into motion. No hesitation, no orders needed beyond that one desperate scream. Chernoff drives forward, voice raw. Left, left, move! Boots slam into frozen mud. Cold air tears lungs. Hands tighten around triggers slick with frost and sweat. They break into two assault pushes, one low, one wide. A PPSH-41 barks, a violent drum roll of 71-round fury. Grenades arc, smooth metal eggs clutched too long, teeth grinding as fuses hiss. One man sprints crouched, DP-28 disc magazine rattling like a dinner plate of death. The smoke thickens, swallowing shapes. The world becomes flashes, screams, and snow turning black and red. Voronov rolls behind a stump as bullets tear the ground centimeters from his skull. He slams a fresh magazine into his SMG, chest heaving, breath ripping like cloth. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. Because he hears them, his brothers charging behind him through smoke and gunfire. And he knows his madness bought them seconds. Seconds are life. A German machine gun nest opens again, blind sweeping fire, a wall of bullets. A partisan dives, too slow, and a burst catches him in the ribs, spinning him, blood spraying in a cruel arc across the snow. He doesn't scream. He gurgles, a wet, soft sound that disappears under the roar. His comrade stops, instincts clawing to pull him to safety. But Chernoff shoves him forward, voice shaking and furious. There is no saving him. Move! Harsh truth, brutal war logic. Mercy means more dead. They push on. The squad veers left, finding the blind spot Voronov created, a wedge of smoke where the Germans can't see, can't adjust fast enough. A German voice shouts commands, clipped, panicked, cracking under sudden chaos. Flanke! Links! Fire! Fire! Too late. A partisan slams into the first camouflaged foxhole. Snow flying. A knife flashes. A muffled, ugly struggle. Then silence. Broken by a grunt and a curse in Russian, as the Soviet rises, wiping steel clean on his sleeve. Voronov sprints again, zigzagging so hard his boots slip, his shoulder slams a tree. Snow bursts around him as a belt-fed ripping sound chews a trench along the ground where he just was. Every heartbeat is a borrowed one. Another machine gunner tries to pivot. A German loader fumbles with ammo belt under frost-stiff gloves. A grenade rolls into their nest. Snow flying. A knife flashes. A muffled, ugly struggle. Then silence, broken by a grunt and a curse in Russian as the Soviet rises, wiping steel clean on his sleeve. The smoke peels away in ragged swirls, revealing the nightmare beneath it. Bodies half buried in snow, shattered branches raining down like wooden shrapnel. A German helmet lies overturned, steam rising from the blood pooled inside. But the ambush isn't broken yet. A second MG-42 nest opens from the right flank, a brutal, ripping sound that feels like it saws the air itself. Bullets chew a path through snow and bark, cutting a fallen tree in half like it's paper. Two partisans dive behind a frozen stump. Splinters pepper their faces. One spits blood, the other can't stop shaking. Voronov sees the muzzle flash, sees the rigid posture of the gunner, textbook Wehrmacht discipline. He sees the loader feeding belts, face stone cold with duty. He has maybe 3 seconds before they finish adjusting fire and slice the platoon apart. He breathes once, a long, steady inhale that tastes like pine and gunpowder. Then he runs. Not in a straight line, but in that strange, zig-laden hunter's sprint that belongs to animals chased by rifle fire. Snow rips under his boots, his coat snaps behind him like a torn banner. The MG-42 barks, tracer lines hiss past, inches from flesh. One round grazes his scalp, heat and blood and white sparks in his vision. Another tears through his shoulder strap, ripping off his ammo pouch. He does not stop. He drops low, slides on his side across packed snow like a man sledding straight into death, raising his PPSH as he skids. A roar of fire straight into the nest. The loader jerks, bullets punch holes through him like paper lanterns. The gunner tries to swing the barrel down, too slow, a grenade lands between his knees. His last word is a strangled, "9!" Then he becomes snow, smoke, and fragments. Silence? No. Just a pause in the screaming. And then new orders in harsh German bark. "Reserve! Nach vorn! Halt die Linie!" Fresh boots crashing through snow. Reinforcements. Voronov groans, clutching his side. Blood slicks his gloves. His coat flap hangs by a single thread. His breath rasps like broken reeds. Chernov reaches him, panting, face smeared with black powder and snow. "You're hit." He spits red into the snow, wipes his mouth with the back of his glove. "I'm angry, not dying." He tries to smile. It comes out more like pain wearing a brave mask. Chernov clasps his shoulder. "Stay behind. That's an order." Voronov's laugh is bitter frost. "And do what? Knit?" Another MG burst crashes into a pine trunk beside them. Sap explodes outward like thick winter honey. Bark splinters pepper their faces again. Chernov wipes blood from his cheek, voice low, fierce. "We flank. They fold. One push." He signals with 2 fingers, sweeping gesture left. The partisans tighten formation. Close, tight, breathing harsh. Their boots dig into snow. Gloves tremble around triggers, faces carved by fear and fury. They move, low, fast, silent, like wolves closing on a wounded stag. A German rifleman steps out from behind a tree, too late. A partisan drives a knife under his ribs, muffling his cry with a gloved hand. He crumples, eyes wide, snow darkening beneath him. Another German fires wildly, adrenaline making his hand shake. Bullets crack through branches overhead. Before he chambers the next round, a PPSH burst knocks him backward, head snapping, body folding into the drift like a puppet with cut strings. Closer now, the trench line comes into view. shallow, snow-packed, logs stacked, helmets bobbing. One German lobs a stick grenade. It arcs in slow motion, tumbling end over end. Time stretches. The fuse hisses. Voronov doesn't think, he moves. He grabs it mid-snow bounce, turns, and hurls it back blind. A scream, a blast, then silence from that direction. He collapses against a pine, sucking air, vision tunneling. He hears footsteps, voices, Russian, alive. Chernov's voice again, raw with command and desperation. Finish it! The final surge breaks the trench. A German officer swings his Mauser like a club, gets tackled, face slammed into snow until red melts into white. A Soviet partisan fires point blank into a foxhole, muzzle flash lighting frost-coated roots. Steel helmets roll. Breath clouds surge and vanish one by one. The screaming fades. Then only panting, gasps, snow drifting down like ash after a burning village. Slowly, painfully, the forest exhales. They did it, not by strength, not by strategy, but by madness, bravery, and one man who chose to walk first. Voronov slumps down a tree trunk, blood freezing on his coat, staring at the sky like he's waiting for judgment. Chernov kneels beside him, checks his pulse, grips his shoulder. "You insane bastard! You saved all of us!" Voronov's laugh is thin, frayed. "I didn't save anyone. I just refused to die politely." Snow drifts on his hair. His breath shakes. But he's alive. Most of them are alive. And in this forest, that is a miracle carved from violence. But the night is far from over. The supply route still waits, and war never lets man rest long. Voronov forces himself to his feet again, jaw clenched. We move before they bring more. A man who walked into death now leads them back into the trees, limping, bleeding, but unbroken. Night folds over the woods like a heavy wool blanket soaked in cold ink. The gunfire fades, swallowed by distance, replaced by the slow drip of melting ice from shattered branches. The forest resumes breathing, cautious at first, like a wounded animal testing if danger has truly passed. The men don't celebrate. They don't shout. They don't cheer. Victory here is quiet. A shivering inhale, a grunt of pain, a nod between souls who expected to die. Snowflakes drift down, soft as feathers, landing on the torn earth where bodies lie half-buried, rifles frozen in hands that will never warm again. Voronov wipes blood from his lip, his or someone else's, hard to tell. His ears still ring from explosions. Every breath tastes like cordite and winter bark. A young partisan, barely 20, approaches with shaking hands and wide, haunted eyes. Frost clings to his eyelashes like tiny white thorns. "Sergeant, why'd they wait? They could have killed us all at once." Voronov studies him, sees the question beneath the words. Why are we alive? Why am I still breathing when others aren't? He answers simply, voice rough as gravel dragged across steel. Hunters wait for the right moment. We didn't give them one. The boy nods, but doesn't understand. Not yet. Understanding comes with time, with graves, with nights where sleep refuses to come. Chernov moves along the line, checking wounds, binding arms, tying off tourniquets, and whispering reassurance with a voice cracking under weight he'll never speak aloud.
His hands shake, but he forces them still. Leadership demands a steadiness the body resists. A partisan in a torn ushanka kneels beside a fallen comrade, closing his eyes gently. He murmurs in Belarusian, a prayer soft enough the wind almost steals it. One dead. One, where it should have been 14.